All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tearing down the 16 sections of chemical safety found within the Safety Data Sheet, or SDS. If you're currently prepping for your FE exam, or even just stepping onto a real-world job site, chemical safety is totally non-negotiable. But memorizing a massive, dense manual, yeah, that's not efficient. So today, we're going to unlock a strategic cheat code so you can pinpoint exactly what you need exactly when you need it. So picture this. A mystery box of potential hazards just landed at your site. Maybe it's some kind of unmarked industrial solvent. If it spills, catches fire, or actually gets on someone's skin, how do you handle that without panicking? Guessing which protective gear you're supposed to wear or which fire extinguisher to grab really isn't an option. You need standardized answers, and you need them fast.
Thankfully, the SDS organizes this crucial information across 16 standardized sections. To make learning this stuff actually efficient and relieve some of your cognitive load, we're going to break it down into 4 logical blocks: the basics, the high-yield core, the wrap-up, and finally, dodging exam traps. Let's get right into it.
Block 1 is all about the basics, covering sections 1 through 3.
This block is your foundation. It's a simple 3-step sequence. Step 1, Section 1, identify it. Basically, what even is this product? Step 2 is Section 2, know the hazard. What are the major flashing red light warnings? And step 3, Section 3, know exactly what's inside. We're talking about the specific chemical ingredients. So identify it, catch the hazards, find the ingredients. Simple, right?
Okay, let's move on to Block 2. This is the high-yield core, spanning sections 4 through 11.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. It's where most real-world emergencies, and frankly, the toughest FE exam questions actually pop up. So let's build some mental muscle memory with a quick rapid-fire sequence. Ask yourself, say a worker accidentally gets some unknown chemical in their eyes, or maybe inhales a toxic vapor. The exposure has happened. What is your absolute first immediate move?
Well, first aid always equals Section 4. This is the section that dictates the immediate medical treatment for eye contact, skin contact, inhalation, or ingestion. If a human being is physically hurt, your brain needs to instantly flash to the number 4. All right, let's switch gears. What if that chemical suddenly goes up in flames? You need to know the right extinguishing media, and you need to know it right now. You definitely can't just throw water on every chemical fire, because sometimes that actually makes it way worse. In a fire emergency, you're jumping straight to Section 5. It handles literally all the firefighting measures, the proper extinguishing techniques, and any specific equipment hazards tied to that exact chemical. So just remember, fire equals Section 5.
Now, before we tackle the next emergency scenario, we kind of need to lock down what containment actually means in this context. At its core, containment is all about preventing a released material from spreading any further into the workplace or out into the environment.
So armed with that definition, if a chemical accidentally spills all over the floor and you need immediate containment and cleanup, where are you looking?
That's going to be Section 6. This is your go-to for accidental releases, spills, and the subsequent cleanup. And notice how wildly different this is from treating an exposed person. If the chemical gets on a person, you're looking at Section 4. If the chemical is on the floor, that's Section 6. It's a huge difference.
Next up, we can logically group Sections 7, 8, and 9 together because they all deal with physical handling. Section 7 tells you how to safely store it on a shelf. Section 8 tells you exactly how to protect yourself while handling it, like what are the exposure limits, or do you need a very specific respirator. And then Section 9 gives you the physical and chemical properties to look out for, like what it looks like or its boiling point.
Moving right along, we hit this really important concept of incompatible materials. Basically, these are substances that might react incredibly dangerously if they ever come into contact with each other. Think about mixing bleach and ammonia. Mixing the wrong chemicals can literally cause instant explosions or massive toxic gas clouds. Total nightmare.
And this brings up a super fascinating contrast that traps test takers all the time. Safe storage conditions, like, keeping a chemical in a dry, cool place, that belongs in Section 7. But if you need to know about dangerous reactivity, like which specific incompatible materials are going to cause a disaster if they touch, that strictly belongs in Section 10, which covers stability and reactivity.
Finally, to round out this high-yield core, what if we need to understand the deep underlying health impacts? What if we're trying to figure out if long-term exposure to this stuff causes serious chronic health effects or maybe even cancer?
For that, you hit Section 11. It handles all the toxicological information. This is where you're going to find acute and chronic symptoms, toxicity levels, and specific routes of exposure.
If you get a question about the human body's deep toxicological response, Section 11 is absolutely your answer.
Okay, home stretch. Block 3, the wrap-up, covering sections 12 through 16.
These final sections kind of tie up the bureaucratic loose ends. You've got ecological impact in 12, waste disposal in 13, transport in 14, regulations in 15, and the revision date in 16. But here's a really wild little caveat. OSHA doesn't even enforce sections 12 through 15. Crazy, right? That's because the info in those specific sections actually falls under the jurisdiction of entirely different agencies, like the EPA or the Department of Transportation.
All right, last block, block 4. Dodging exam traps. Let's make sure you avoid common mistakes.
A total classic trick on the exam is confusing Section 2 with Section 11. Just remember, Section 2 simply identifies the hazard warnings. It just tells you at a high basic level, hey, this is toxic. But Section 11? That's the deep dive. It explains the actual physical symptoms and the detailed toxicological effects on the human body. So whatever you do, don't mix those two up. So how do we actually hack the test? You build a mental memory chain that links specific, real-world keywords directly to their section numbers. 4 is aid, 5 is fire, 6 is spill, 7 is store, 8 is protect, 9 is properties, 10 is react, 11 is toxic. So if you ever see the keyword PPE in a question, your brain should immediately, automatically lock on to Section 8.
Because ultimately, the strategy we're talking about today isn't about the blind, rote memorization of 16 random numbers. It's about confidently and quickly connecting a situational keyword, like a fire, a spill, or an injury, directly to the correct section. It is all about practical, rapid application.
So, as you head into your FE exam or when you step onto a high-stakes job site tomorrow morning, I want you to ask yourself, when an emergency actually strikes, are you going to be the one frantically flipping through a giant binder while the clock ticks? Or are you ready to use these strategic connections to instantly decode the situation and keep everyone safe?